Hey everyone, this is that badass rider Dinraj here, and I am right now in the middle of nowhere, as you can see. And as the video suggests, this is going to be my take on the ownership experience of owning the KTM Duke 250 for the last 10,000 kilometers. So I'll tell you all the goods and bads and all the experiences that you'll have as an owner if you choose to own this bike. Let's get going. So the first thing you like about this bike is the engine. Okay, for this kind of price point and for a 250cc engine, this is very punchy. I own a CBR myself, so I know that both the bikes do go fast. They are faster. So let me just use my comparison and I'll tell you the way this bike picks up is something totally different. That's what KTM is anyways known for. So one thing you'll really love in your ownership experience with the bike is the way this bike picks up. The engine, the pull and the grunt is mad. Seriously, it's mad fun. I agree, compared to the other Dukes that are available right now to us, compared to the 200 and the 390, this the 250 is known to be a bit more linear. However, compared to other vehicles in the segment, for a 30 bhp bike, it pulls pretty well. The progression of the speed, I agree, is linear, but the initial pull in any gear is really good. It's exactly the nutty KTM you will expect it to be. The second thing I'd like to talk about in the ownership experience of this bike at 10,000 kilometers is the cost of ownership. Now, most of the bikes these days have a service interval of maybe 3,000 kilometers, like let's say the Royal Enfields or the smaller CC bikes. And bikes like the CBR have a service interval of 6,000 kilometers, and I think Himalayan has 5,000. These are all bikes which come within the same price bracket. That's why I'm mentioning these bikes. But the KTM's and even this one has a service interval of 7,500 kilometers. So you got to service the bike every 7,500 kilometers, and the service cost is not that much. Maybe it's an effect of Bajaj and KTM's merger, I'm not very sure, but overall on your pockets it's not going to be heavy. So service cost is a thumbs up for this bike. The cost of ownership is good. The only thing that you need to bother about is maybe keeping the chain lubed regularly. Other than that, the service cost is really nice. I mean, it's very much affordable. So the next point I would like to talk about is the mileage of this bike. I hope you can see over here on the screen that for the last trip, I'm not very sure if it's very readable. Let me just wipe it out. I just had an off-road session, so it's all dusty. You can see here the trip meter says 408.7 kilometers, and the mileage I am currently getting is 38.5 kilometers per liter for this much of running. And out of 408.7 kilometers, I have had a long ride of 315 kilometers, which included maybe 20-30 kilometers of off-road give and take. And as of now also I've come through this off-road trail, so all of it inclusive, I'm still getting a mileage of 38.5 kilometers. You know, for a bike that pulls like this with an amazing pickup and the fun you can have, the off-roading, and you know, in off-road you usually end up being either in only first gear or once in a while shifting to the second gear. So that's why your fuel does get consumed. In spite of all that, if I'm getting 38.5 kilometers, it's not bad. It's really not bad. And this is something I'm showing you directly from the meter of the bike. So let's say even if there's some error, maybe you're still getting 35 or about 30. It's really not bad for a 250cc bike which pulls in the way this bike pulls. I mean, come on. I own a classic 350 as well, and even the classic gives around 36-37 kilometers, and you know, the kind of riding, the way that bike pulls is totally different. So comparatively, for this punchy engine, this much of mileage is really nice. So mileage is a thumbs up for this bike. Now, even if you have owned another bike or not, even if this is your first bike, second bike, third bike, whatever it is, one thing you cannot ignore and cannot not fall in love with is the chassis. This chassis over here is brilliant. You know, You can blame the bad tires. They may be good or bad. For me, they are okay, but then maybe you can switch to better tires, whatnot. You might want to do some cornering, street riding, whatever it is. But I'll tell you, out of comparison and out of living with another four bikes with myself, I can tell you the way this chassis handles. None of the vehicles I've owned has handled this good. I mean, it's amazing. No matter what kind of riding style you're doing, it instills so much confidence. This frame instills so much confidence that you just feel like the bike wants you to push it further. Maybe the tires give up after some time or whatnot, but then you get this feeling that the bike is sticking onto the road. The frames, along with these upside USD forks and the mono suspension, somehow work in so well that the chassis keeps you inspired, even if you're going to take a lean, even if you're going maybe you're doing the nagging dance on the road or whatever it is. The chassis of this bike is brilliant. I have to add it up to the ownership experience, because even if you end up owning this as your second or third bike, you will see the difference. Yeah, the chassis, it's a big thumbs up. So, if I had to nitpick things and find out advantages of this bike, I mean, there are a lot more, but of the things that are flashing to my head right now, one of the main things I can tell you is this. Not this button, but this button. You're gonna love it, because let me just show you why. Yes, you get a one-touch starter on this bike, so you don't have to anymore crank it up. I agree it's not a big deal, because I mean, there is some kind of fun in cranking the bike up, but once you get used to this, trust me, you will love this. Because even the first few times when I was riding this bike, when I switch over to my CBR or the Classic, I end up doing this and the bike doesn't start. This somehow becomes like an ease for starting, because the next time you're in traffic, you just switch off the kill switch. You just got to do this, that's it, and the bike cranks up so seamlessly. So this is something I'm not sure whether people assumed it's only available on the 390, but no, it's available on the 250 as well, but not on the 200 nor on the 125. So yeah, the one touch starter is a good feature. So now let me talk about the points or the things that you may not really appreciate in your ownership experience of having this bike in your garage. Let's start off with the chain. This chain you see over here, as you can see, it gets dry and dirty very easily. It's like a dirt magnet, if I have to name it that way. That's one thing. I mean, it is a part of maintenance. I told you that the cost of ownership is cheap. I agree, but at the same time, I can negate myself by saying that you have to keep lubing the chain and keeping it clean. But it's a part of living with the bike. But then again, if you have to compare it with other bikes, for example, let's say maybe a Honda or any other bikes, I can tell you for sure that the KTM chains, especially this one, attracts dirt very easily. This is something I already knew before buying the bike, because I had a very long discussion with another friend of mine who owns a BS3 Duke 390. So even he agreed that one thing I'll have to keep in mind is that the chain gets dirty very soon, and I'll have to keep it clean, which clearly I'm not right now. But then, in this small patch of off-road and the off-road I did in the long ride as well, it's got that dirty, so it's okay. But then yeah, the chain is a dirt magnet. So another thing I did not like about this bike, I have to say it, is the vibration. When you throttle it, when you rev it hard, any bike vibrates. I totally agree. When you reach towards the taller rev range, it does vibrate. Any bike for that matter. I totally agree. But then, throughout the ride experience, there's only some mid points you don't really feel the vibration absolutely on this bike. But most of the other times you do feel them, especially creeping into the foot pegs and maybe near the handlebar. And there is something over here that feels like a plastic rattle very rarely. It's a small buzz, it's totally ignorable, and if I have to debate on this with any KTM owner, they would say, what buzz? No buzz, I don't feel any vibrations. But trust me, when you hop on to another bike immediately, maybe to something like a Honda or whatever, or maybe any other bike, I'm not comparing, I'm not trying to be a fanboy either, but I'm being very frank that the vibrations or the buzz that I'm talking about, almost every KTM you get to feel a bit of it, because this is not more about refinement, it's more about fun. So yeah, if you are switching from another bike, you will feel a bit of the vibrations and the buzz, but eventually you will live with it, and it's not something that's gonna crush you in the wrong places in any way. And guys, one point that I really have to note out as a drawback on this bike, or an irritating part, is this: the headlamp. These DRLs, or the pilot lamps, or whatever you want to call it, they look beautiful. The headlamp is not bad, it's nice to look at, but then the way it illuminates the road is not sufficient. I know I don't have any fog lamp setup done, because I don't really believe in sticking out bulbs from the other side, but if I do need them in the future, I will add it up. But then again, the low beam is not sufficient, and the high beam can only show you coconuts on the coconut trees. So that's how the headlamp setup is. So yeah, the headlamp setup is not really great on this bike, that's one thing I can say. So if I had to nitpick one of the negative points about this bike, that would be this long stalk, which is more of the tail garnish for the number plate. It sticks out from the bike, it looks beautiful in my opinion, but then what happens because of this is, your legs or your pillion's legs may touch the indicators when they're getting onto it. Even if that's not the case, someone else may just randomly come and touch or hit, so these indicators end up breaking. So that's not exactly a design flaw, but then this happens. I mean, we are in the middle of the urban jungle, this keeps happening. So what you can do is, you can get a tail tidy and get the indicators come out over here, so it's well protected by these grab rails. That can be done, it's an easy workaround. But then to nitpick, I can say that this being extended out so much looks beautiful, but then it is a danger for the indicators. And I'm saying this out of experience, because I've already lost one of my left rear indicators that had broken down. This is the second piece. Very soon I'm planning to get the tail tidy and get a shortened piece over here and get the indicators to come out from here itself. So that's one thing you'll have to keep in mind if you're planning to get a bike, and if you're thinking of any modifications, that would be a helpful one. So guys, for today's video, it's just this much. I just gave a small briefing of what my ownership experience has been with the Duke 250 for the last 10,000 kilometers, and I just tried to sum it up. There's a lot more I can talk about the bike, and there's a lot of information that I can actually provide to you guys. So what you can do is comment down in the comment section below and let me know what you want to know about the bike, and I can answer you according to your queries or whatever you need to know. I just want to make it easier for anyone who has not owned the bike to know what he or she will be getting into before they even decide to get the bike. It's a really nice, fun bike, and it's actually easy to live with. That's my verdict of the bike. The small niggles or the drawbacks I've told you about are livable with, because if not, maybe even I would have sold off the bike. So it's a good bike to live with, and trust me, if you ever think of popping a wheelie, easy peasy on this bike. And yeah, if you want to watch the Hindi version of this video, you can click on the link above. So until next time then, that's all for now, and like I said, comment and let me know whatever you want to know about the bike, and I will answer to my best knowledge. So until next time then, have fun, ride safe, and I am that badass rider. See ya. Guys, by off-road, sometime back, I meant to this level. You can see my shoes, they're screwed, the pants are screwed, everything is screwed up right now. But then again, I forgot to mention one thing. This bike is literally fun on the off-roads. So places like these, like that, or even through these, I mean literally through the jungles, you can take this bike and you can come out without getting stuck. Unless you throttle too hard, because these are road tires. In that case, you can change to the off-road or dual purpose tires. Yeah, that's just an added bonus point for you guys.